You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us again this week. I always look forward to our time together. And this week, we're going to talk about the concept of getting things started and what it's like to really get things in motion. But before we jump into this week's platform development topic, I really want to just invite one of our members, a longtime member of our members club, to unmute her mic, because you know that we record this live in front of the members club every week. And I just want to invite Jennifer Harshman, a long-term member of Platform Launchers, to just share about something really, really exciting that took place in her life and in her platform development this week. Jennifer, tell us, what's the good news?
My book is released. It's now available on Amazon, and Platform Launchers was very influential in helping me to get this thing done and out there. So it's Your Book Bakery, making it easy to write a book.
I love it. And we saw that it was number one. It was charting at number one in the book reference category. So that's really exciting. So again, the title is Your Book Bakery, and the subtitle is
Making it easy to write a book.
all right. So look for that on Amazon as soon as possible. Help our friend Jennifer Harshman to maintain her number one position in the book chart. She just released it. She released it a few days earlier. She promised us it was going to come out on October 1st, but she released it a few days before that. So good for her in doing that. But pick up Your Book Bakery, making it easy to write a book. It's on Amazon right now, and Jennifer will guide you through that process. Most people want to write a book at some point in their life, but they oftentimes don't know where to start. So check out Jennifer's book. She'll help you out with that. Jen, thanks so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you, John.
All right. Well, tonight we are talking about this idea of getting things started. Now, I'm going to share something scientific, and I don't typically venture into the sciences necessarily in our weekly podcast here, but I want to make mention about related to something that you've probably heard about. It's probably something that you could think back to 8th grade science class, and you heard of Isaac Newton and some of Newton's laws. Well, Newton's first law of motion, it's sometimes referred to as the law of inertia, right? So the law of inertia, and it states that an object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. So that's Newton's first law of motion. So just kind of keep that in mind as we talk about what we're about to talk about, because while I realize that that scientific principle is speaking about physical objects, there's a lesson we could take from it related to online platform development and our entrepreneurial endeavors as well. People and ideas that get in motion, they tend to stay in motion. And people who continue to remain in a resting state tend to remain in that resting state. Now, by any chance, do you have friends that are filled with all kinds of good ideas and all kinds of great intentions, but nothing ever seems to come of their plans? I bring that up because, if I'm honest, it might be fair to say that there are more people in my life who have told me about the things they intended to do than there are people who have actually directly followed through on their intentions. And I'll give you a good example. So earlier this year, a friend came up to me and he requested to be a guest expert for our Platform Launchers Members Club. And one of the things that you've noticed, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, and our members certainly notice this, is that from time to time, we bring on guest experts, people that are specialists in particular topics related to platform development, and they share their expertise, and we learn from them, and we glean from their wisdom. Well, this friend came up to me and he requested to actually be one of those guest experts. He said, I'd love to share about a few things. He was super enthusiastic. He had all kinds of ideas that he thought would be a benefit to our community. But I have to admit something to you. I also know that he doesn't have a track record that truly positions him as an expert. So that put me in an awkward position in that moment. And if I'm really, really honest, the most consistent thing I've seen him do is hesitate to follow through on his dreams. He hesitates all the time. And so I gave him a small test. And I thought, if he passes this test, I had a series of opportunities that I was going to attempt to open up to him, but I simply asked him to do just a basic thing. It was just a basic test. I asked him to email me a brief overview of what he wanted to share with our group. I said no more than a page. In fact, I think I told him no more than 2 or 3 paragraphs. That would have been sufficient. That's all I needed from him. And he told me he was going to jump right on that. He said he was going to do it essentially immediately. And the ironic thing is that we're quickly approaching 1 year since we had that conversation, and I haven't yet received anything from him. And even worse is that, sadly, that's exactly what I expected. I didn't expect to receive anything from him. I expected that I would receive nothing. So I'm actually getting exactly what I expected, which made me glad that I put that little test into, that conversation. So I want you to think about his example, because maybe there's some elements of that you can relate to. I think there's probably something in that we could all probably relate to, because I think many of us find ourselves at times struggling to get things into motion. And I just want to throw out this question here. What keeps us from starting or getting our dreams in motion? So specifically here, we're talking about platform development ideas. And many of us have ideas of things that we want to do online, things that we want to share, businesses we want to build online, messages that we want to share with others online. But what keeps us from starting our platforms? What keeps us from getting our dreams in motion? Because I'm certain my friend isn't the only one struggling to get things going. And maybe your story has been very similar to his. You've got all kinds of dreams, you've got goals, you've got plans, you've got ambitions, but they aren't materializing because you aren't taking action on them. So why is that the case? I actually think that there are several possibilities, by the way, why that may be the case, why those things aren't getting started. Let me suggest 3 things that I think can contribute to the fact that you may be struggling to get some of these things in motion. I think number 1 is this. You're struggling with self-doubt. You're struggling with self-doubt. Now, this is a common struggle. And some people, I was just having a conversation with one of our members just the other day, and he used a phrase that I hear frequently shared. Some people call this imposter syndrome. Do you ever hear that phrase, imposter syndrome? So maybe you're struggling to believe that anyone would listen to you because you're over focusing on the people who are 10 years ahead of you and don't need your help, instead of the people who are 2 to 5 years behind you and desperately need your help. So one of the reasons why you might be struggling to get things in motion is that you're just simply struggling with self-doubt. Well, I hope we can help you overcome that tonight. Number 2, I think, could be this. You may think that you need to have everything figured out on day 1. Now, that can really prevent you from getting started, because it's impossible to figure everything out that early. In fact, there are some things that you can only figure out once you're in motion. And if you're not in motion, you're not going to be able to figure these things out. And in fact, I have been surprised at how much I've been able to learn, or how much I've been able to adjust to what I'm doing once I've gotten an idea moving. It was only after I started taking action that I was able to see some of the things that I couldn't figure out at the start. So if you think you need to have everything figured out on day 1, well, that could very easily keep you from getting started. That can keep you from gaining motion and getting things in motion. How about this? Number 3, I think a third thing that can keep us from getting things in motion is this. You're focusing on more than step 1. Now, I'm going to share a little bit more about this in just a little bit, but let me just say this. If you're focusing on more than step 1, what you're doing is you're basically trying to figure out too many steps at once. And if you're trying to figure out too many steps at once, that can be a major momentum killer. It's actually overwhelming. So let me encourage you, don't try to focus on too many things at once, because you'll needlessly discourage yourself and nothing will get accomplished. So those are a few reasons that I think sometimes we can be kept from starting what we need to start, or we can kept from getting our dreams in motion. But let me kind of share from the reverse here a little bit, because once you're getting things in motion, I think that there are actually certain things that you can do to help keep your momentum high, to keep things in motion once the motion begins. So what can we do, or how can we or maybe I should say it this way, what can help keep our momentum high once we get going? Well, I have 4 suggestions for us that can keep our momentum high once we get things going with our platforms. I think, first of all, we got to celebrate our wins. So, what does that look like? Well, I think all along the way, we need to create milestones all along the way that we can get excited about. So, don't wait years before you start celebrating your progress. Do it sooner. Now, I'll tell you, as you're listening to this podcast, right now, we are at the 1-year anniversary of platform launchers. And I have to tell you, on day one, when we started platform launchers, we weren't seeing the same kind of successes that we're seeing right now. We were seeing day one type successes, not year one successes. But we're at the 1-year anniversary. But here's the thing, don't wait till you're at your 1-year anniversary before you start celebrating your progress. So if, like me, if you're building a membership community, celebrate earlier than that 1-year mark. Celebrate the fact that 5 people have joined. Don't wait till you have 100 people join. Celebrate that 5 people joined. We have several people in our members club that are starting up membership communities. I hope they'll hear me on this. Celebrate when 5 people join. If you're creating a podcast, celebrate your first 100 downloads. Don't wait till you get to 1,000. Don't wait till you get to 1,000,000. Celebrate the first 100 and keep celebrating your progress along the way. I think when we celebrate our wins, we can keep momentum high. Number 2, this is something that I've had to learn all throughout the course of my adult life. But number 2, something that I think can keep our momentum high, and I share this from personal experience, surround yourself with people who are cheering for you, not rooting against you. So years ago, it became clear to me that many of the people I was surrounding myself with, they actually seemed to be somewhat insecure and jealous. And what that looked like in my life was, instead of cheering with me, they tended to root against me, which was really strange when I realized that some of these people I thought were my friends. And I thought, boy, instead of cheering with me, they seem to be rooting against me. And when that became clear to me, I thought to myself, well, I actually need to begin focusing more of my attention toward developing relationships that are mutually edifying and mutually encouraging. And when I started developing better friendships like that with people that were mutually edifying, mutually encouraging, people who were cheering for me, not rooting against me, it made a big difference in my mindset, and it helped me to maintain momentum. And it continues to help me maintain momentum. There are people in my life that I'm so grateful that they're there, because they are people that'll be honest with me, but they come from a spot that's very loving and very generous and very encouraging. And I find it helpful. And I hope that that relationship is mutually beneficial with them as well, that they feel that I'm doing that for them also, because I genuinely appreciate the fact that they do that for me. So surround yourself with people who are cheering for you, not rooting against you, if you want to keep your momentum high. How about this? Number 3, this is something I've also had to learn throughout the course of my adult life. But number 3, I would say, if you want to keep momentum high, take calculated breaks. And I'm talking about breaks that you plan ahead of time. So I find that a well-timed break from my responsibilities can be a very helpful energy booster. So my interest in what I'm building, it tends to come back once I've given myself ample opportunity to rest. Because sometimes I notice, if I'm going hard at a particular objective, or if I'm working on something, or really trying to build something, sometimes you lose a little steam, you lose a little energy, maybe even lose a little interest. But my interest in what I'm building, it tends to come back once I've given myself ample opportunity to rest. And what I find is helpful is, I find it wise to plan these rest times ahead of time in a proactive way. And I'm encouraging you to do this in a proactive way, because I found out, for me, what I was doing for a long time is I was taking my rest or my breaks in a reactive way. And it usually was happening after I had pushed myself too far and I'd gotten to a spot where I was just overly exhausted. And I was taking a break out of desperation instead of being proactive and planning these things. But if you are taking calculated breaks, if you're being proactive about it, it's also helpful when you're kind of planning ahead, because you could treat these breaks like a partial finish line that you could work toward. You could say, all right, you know what, I've got a break coming up in 2 weeks. Let me just go hard for 2 weeks here, and then I'll take that break, and then I'll recalibrate. And it becomes like a finish line that you can work toward. And then when you hit it, you rest a little bit and you think a little bit. One of my friends, Jeremy, who's on the call right now, he just shared a really good business idea that he has for his platform. And I think he got one of those ideas during a time where he was taking a long motorcycle ride. He's taking a calculated break. And it ended up resulting in him getting a very good idea that can be a benefit for his business. So I think it's helpful to take calculated breaks if you want to keep momentum high. But number 4 on my list is this: stay focused on the next right thing to do. So this is very similar to what I said in the first list I gave you. Number 3 in what keeps us from getting started or what keeps us from getting our dreams in motion. I encourage, I mentioned one of the things that can keep us from getting things in motion is the fact that we're focusing on more than one step at a time. We're focusing on more than step 1 is how I phrased it. But number 4 in once you've got the momentum going that I would encourage you to continue to use to keep the momentum going is to stay focused on the next right thing to do. So it's the positive way to make that same statement, meaning whatever step you're on, just keep thinking about what you're supposed to do next. It's a cleaner way to think, and it helps you to make incremental progress all along the way. Just think about what comes next. Don't think about what comes 2 steps ahead or 3 steps or 10 steps ahead. Focus on what to do next, the next right thing to do. And if you focus on the next right thing to do, I think you're just going to find yourself much more focused, and it's going to help you to maintain momentum, and it helps you not to get overwhelmed unnecessarily. So let me say this: if you've got good ideas and if you've got some dreams that you're wanting to see become reality, don't keep sitting there dreaming. It's time to start. Please hear me as I say that. It's time to start. It's time to get these things in motion. Start lean. It doesn't have to be some big enterprise. Start lean. Start messy. What I mean by that is, well, like if you're starting messy, it means that you don't have it all figured out. You're just going to get it started, and you'll figure it out along the way. So don't worry if your website isn't perfect, and don't worry if your logo isn't as good as it can be, or don't worry if your podcast audio doesn't sound perfect yet. Just start what you're called to do and improve it once you get it started. Please hear me as I say that. Start what you're called to do and improve it once you get it started. And I've heard this said a few different ways, and I'll say it my own way. If you don't feel a little embarrassed about the first version of the new things you're putting out there, you've probably waited too long to start sharing them. When I look back at some of the early content I created, some of the early content that I put out on the internet, some early videos, some early audios, some early things that I wrote, I look at it now and I think, oh, a little embarrassed about some of the early stuff. And you know what? That's okay, because I wouldn't feel as strong about some of the things that I'm creating now if I didn't have all the practice and all the experience and all the time that went into creating some of those early pieces of content. You have to create the early ones before you can get to the things where you start to feel proficient. And here's the good news. When it comes to your early stuff, at that point, you probably don't have your audience built up yet. So your early stuff where you're making mistakes or it looks a little messy or it's not as polished as it's going to be once you get it developed, it's the perfect time to be making mistakes. It's the perfect time to be refining what you're doing because your audience isn't huge anyway. But here's the other thing I've noticed about an audience. They like going back and reviewing some of your early stuff when it wasn't quite as polished because they look at it and they say, all right, you know what? This inspires me to get things going because I'm seeing this woman or this man who's created something and they had a humble beginning, but they still got it out there. The people that actually succeed at online platform development, the people that succeed at getting some of this stuff in motion are people that stop worrying about the voice of critics. They stop worrying about people picking things apart, and they stop beating themselves up because their content isn't perfect. Don't worry if it's not perfect. Just get it out there. Serve somebody with it. Think about the person that's 2 to 5 years behind where you're at and serve that guy or serve that lady. Just serve that person and stay focused on that. Just stay focused on creating valuable content, but don't worry about it being perfect because here's the news. None of it's going to be perfect. Even if you're 10 years deep into this process, it's still not going to be perfect. So just start it. Start it lean, start it messy. Don't worry about it not being perfect on day one, because it's just not going to be perfect on day one, and it won't be perfect on year 10 either. But get it out there. And again, I'll use, as we finish up, as we kind of wrap this up, I'll use platform launchers as an example. Some of our members have been with us essentially from day one, and some have joined us all along the way. And what they've discovered, those that have been part of this from day one, they have seen how over the course of a year, how platform launchers has developed, how we've refined things, how we've added new things. We've got our first live event coming up next week. And we didn't have live events when we first started this. We just started a private Facebook group. Well, we didn't have that when we first started this. We've had all sorts of things. We have monthly challenges that we do together. Well, we didn't offer monthly challenges when we first started this. These are ideas that have come along once we got in motion. So now is the time to start. If you've been delaying, if you've been worrying, if you've been nitpicking some of the content that you're thinking about creating, but you're not really getting it out there because you're afraid it's not going to be good enough, I'm telling you now, right now is the day to start. Not next week, not 2 weeks from now, not 2 years from now. Start it now. Start it lean, start it messy, get it out there, and then refine it as you go. Once you start putting it out there, once you start refining it, you're going to find that you're going to gain that momentum that you've been looking for. And before you know it, it's going to be second nature. You're just going to be creating that content and serving people and blessing people with your knowledge and with your insights and all the things that you're offering. You're going to be doing that regularly. It's going to be part of your regular routine. And before you know it, you're going to help a lot of people. Well, before we wrap up tonight, I just want to invite you to stop over to platformlaunchers.com. We always allow people to take a free 2-week test drive of our members club. If they'd like to do that, we've got tons and tons of video there that's going to help you. You'll be able to have instant access to it. It's going to give you all the information you need to get your platform up and running, to figure out your idea, to figure out how to deliver that content, to figure out how to develop an audience and monetize that content. All that information, you can find it at platformlaunchers.com. Just sign up for the 2-week test drive. See if it's something that's useful for you. And we'd love to invite you to be part of our members club and to just work along with you as you build your platform. Also, on our website, you could also find our launch plan course. You can find our blog. You can find our podcast. And there's just a link to communicate with me if you'd like. Just send me a message, john@platformlaunchers.com. I'd love to hear from you and just kind of hear about some of the ideas that you might be working on. But that's it for us today. We're about to segue into our members only Q&A, and that's not recorded for the podcast. You got to be a member to be part of the members only Q&A. But again, stop over at platformlaunchers.com, take a 2-week test drive, join us for a members only Q&A. We'd love to have your insight and hear your questions as well. But that's it for us this week. We're going to jump over to the Q&A in just a second, and we look forward to catching up with you again next time.